The heavy cane in Amaka's hand slammed down again, striking the fragile back of the blind 80-year-old woman curled up on the cold tile floor. "You will not rest until you destroy my life, right? Die already. Just die and free me," Amaka shouted, her voice raw with frustration. The woman on the floor, Mama Sandra, groaned softly, her face twisted in pain and confusion. Her thin fingers, veined and shaking, tried to shield her head. She couldn't see the blows coming, but she felt every sting, every rage-filled lash of the cane, like fire crawling across her skin. "Amaka, my daughter, what did I do?" Mama Sandra whimpered, her voice barely above a whisper. Her words trembled with fear. But Amaka didn't stop. "You act like you don't know," she screamed, her chest heaving with emotion. "Don't you dare pretend. You've been in this house for 5 years, and since then, nothing has worked. I've tried everything. Doctors, prayers, fasting. But no child. No child." Her hand shook as she lifted the cane again, eyes red with tears. "You're a witch. That's what my friend Jennifer said. You're old, blind, and still alive like nothing is wrong. You blocked my womb, Mama Sandra. You've cursed my life." The cane came down again. Mama Sandra let out a low, painful cry and curled into herself like a wounded animal. She was helpless, blind, old, weak, and yet she was the enemy in Amaka's eyes. The guest room was quiet, except for the sounds of pain, rage, and breath. Then, without warning, the door creaked open. There stood Benjamin, her husband, her everything. He was back. Benjamin's eyes swept over the Seneither cane, clutched in his wife's hand, his mother trembling on the floor with red welts forming across her thin arms and back. His breath caught in his throat, his chest tightened. For a few seconds, he couldn't even move. He wasn't supposed to be home this early. He had left a meeting halfway because he had a feeling something in his chest had told him to check on Mama. And now, standing in the doorway, he was frozen in the worst nightmare he could imagine. "Amaka." His voice was low, shaky, cold. What are you doing?" Amaka's body went stiff. Her hands dropped the cane, which clattered to the floor like a hammer hitting glass. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She tried to speak, but her voice caught in her throat. "I can explain," she muttered, stepping back as if her own body was ashamed. But Benjamin had already moved. He strode toward her, anger rising from the pit of his stomach like boiling water. He didn't recognize the woman in front of him anymore. This wasn't the same Amaka he married 5 years ago. This wasn't the woman who once served his mother tea with a smile. No, this was someone else. Someone bitter. Someone cruel. Before she could say another word, his palm came down on her cheek hard, fast, filled with betrayal and pain. Amaka fell to the floor, her eyes wide in disbelief. She clutched her cheek, gasping. She'd never seen Benjamin like this. "Mama!" he cried, turning away from her and rushing to the floor where his mother lay. "Mama! I'm here! I'm here!" He knelt beside her gently, brushing her hair back, his heart breaking. "Mama, can you hear me? It's me, Benjamin." "Ben," she whispered, her voice cracked and full of hurt. Why did she beat me? I didn't do anything." Tears fell down Benjamin's face. He lifted his mother carefully into his arms. She was light, too light. How long had she been suffering in silence? He looked back once at Amaka, the woman he gave everything to, the woman he trusted with his home, his love, and now his mother's safety. "Driver!" Benjamin roared, heading out the door with Mama Sandra cradled like a child in his arms. "Start the car! We're going to the hospital now." Amaka remained on the floor, frozen. Her ears rang from the slap, but the pain in her chest was louder. She didn't cry. Not yet. Because deep inside, she still believed she was right. Jennifer had convinced her. All those late-night calls, all those whispers. How can a blind old woman still be living? And you, a young woman, can't have children, Jennifer would say. Think. Something is wrong. And you know what it is. She believed her. She allowed the seed of doubt and hate to grow. But now she watched the man she loved carry his broken mother out of the house, and something in her chest cracked. The silence that followed was louder than all the screams. Her ears echoed with Mama Sandra's cries. She tried to move, but her legs wouldn't respond. She wanted to speak, but guilt locked her throat. The guest room was empty now, except for the cane on the floor and the ghost of the woman Amaka used to be. The hospital hallway was quiet, except for the faint hum of machines and the hurried footsteps of nurses. Benjamin sat outside the emergency room, his hands clenched into fists, elbows on his knees. He hadn't said a word in over an hour. His tie was loosened. His eyes read not, just from lack of sleep, but from something deeper. Betrayal. How could Amaka do this? How could she hurt his mother, his blind, defenseless mother? Mama Sandra was still inside the emergency room. The doctors were doing tests to check for internal injuries. They had already treated the bruises on her back, shoulders, and arms. But it wasn't just her body they were worried about, it was her heart. At 80 years old, one emotional blow could be enough to stop it. A nurse finally stepped out. "Sir," she said gently, "she's stable for now, but we'll need to keep her under observation for at least 48 hours. Her heart rate was irregular when she came in." Benjamin nodded, barely able to speak. "Can I see her?" The nurse led him inside. Mama Sandra lay on a hospital bed, her skin pale against the white sheets, a drip attached to her hand. But when she heard Benjamin's voice, she smiled. "My son." Benjamin walked over and took her hand. "Mama, I'm so sorry. I should never have brought her into our home. I should have known something was wrong. I should have—" "No," she whispered, squeezing his hand with surprising strength. "You didn't know." She pretended well. "I never wanted to tell you." "Tell me what?" Benjamin asked, eyes narrowing. "She hated me," Mama Sandra said quietly. "Even before I moved into the house, I could feel it. The way she spoke, the way she avoided me. But I thought, maybe it was just hard for her. You were trying for a child. I didn't want to make it harder." Benjamin felt his heart shatter a little more. "I just don't understand why she changed," he whispered. Mama Sandra's lips trembled. "It's not her alone. Someone fed her lies. Someone planted this hate in her heart." Back at the mansion, Amaka stood in front of the mirror, looking at her reflection. Her cheek was still red from the slap. She kept touching it, as if hoping to wipe away what happened. The silence in the house was suffocating. She walked to the dining table and sat down, resting her head on the polished surface. Her mind flashed back to Jennifer's voice over the phone just a few weeks ago. "Amaka, open your eyes. Why do you think you haven't gotten pregnant? That old woman is the reason. Look, I've seen it happen before. Witches don't die easily. She's probably eating your babies in the spirit realm." "Don't be silly, Jennifer," Amaka had replied that day. "Mama is blind. She's not even strong enough to walk on her own. And that's what makes it easy for you to be fooled," Jennifer snapped. "Witches don't fly with brooms. They work through curses. She's blocking your womb. Mark my words, until she dies, you won't have a child." That day had been the turning point. Amaka had started watching Mama Sandra differently. Every time the old woman laughed, Amaka felt her heart tighten. Every time she prayed out loud in Igbo, Amaka wondered what spell she was casting. The fear had taken root in her soul, and then turned to hate. She now realized something. She never once questioned the source of her fear. She just obeyed it. 2 days passed. Benjamin stayed at the hospital the entire time. He barely slept. On the second night, Mama Sandra was finally strong enough to sit up. They had given her something for the pain, and she smiled more now, but her body still trembled from time to time. "Ben," she said, holding his hand, "you need to make a choice. I don't want to be the reason you lose your marriage, but I also won't stay where I'm not wanted." Benjamin looked into his mother's blind eyes, then looked away, ashamed. "Mama, it's not your fault. I married her to build a home, but now I don't even recognize her anymore." "She's lost," Mama said softly. "But sometimes people get lost because they listen to the wrong voice." Benjamin stood up. "I think it's time to stop pretending everything's okay. She almost killed you, Mama. She might not even feel sorry." His mother nodded slowly. "I'll pray for her." But Benjamin had already made up his mind. That evening, He returned to the mansion. Amaka heard his footsteps and quickly ran down the stairs. She had dressed nicely, her hair neatly packed, makeup covering the redness on her face. She wore a soft smile she hadn't worn in weeks. "Ben," she said, "thank God. How's Mama? I've been so worried." He didn't hug her. He didn't answer. He walked past her and sat down on the living room couch. "She's fine," he said flatly. "She'll be discharged tomorrow." That's good," Amaka nodded, standing still like a child caught in trouble. There was a long silence. Then Benjamin looked up. "I want a divorce." Amaka's knees buckled. "What?" "You heard me. We're done." She rushed toward him. No, Benjamin, please. I was confused. I was scared. I didn't know what I was doing." He stood up, his eyes burning with something colder than anger. "You beat a blind old woman with a cane. My mother. You didn't just hurt her. You killed this marriage." "Please." She dropped to her knees, sobbing. "Jennifer said she was behind it. I didn't mean to." "Exactly," he snapped. "You listened to outsiders. You let someone ruin what we had, and now you want me to pretend it didn't happen?" "No, Amaka. This is the consequence." She reached for his leg, but he stepped away. There's nothing left to say. As he turned and walked upstairs, Amaka remained on her knees, shaking. But she wasn't ready for what would happen next, because 2 days later, Benjamin made an announcement. He had already filed for divorce, and he wasn't alone anymore. Standing beside him was another woman, and she had a secret that would shake Amaka's world to the core. The media didn't waste time. By the third day, blogs were already flooded with headlines. Billionaire CEO Benjamin Okafor files for divorce, reveals new woman standing beside him. Billionaire's wife caught abusing blind mother. In-law divorce confirmed. Amaka stayed off her phone. She couldn't bear to read the comments. She hadn't stepped out of the house since Benjamin served her divorce papers. Everything was happening too fast. She had begged. She had cried. She had even fallen to her knees and promised to go to therapy, to church, to anywhere he wanted. But Benjamin didn't flinch. She tried calling his number again, for the 5th time that morning. Number not reachable. Amaka tossed the phone across the room, screaming. This can't be happening. But it was. That morning, Benjamin had held a private press conference in his office, intending to address both shareholders and the media who were already digging into his personal life. He kept the meeting brief. "My mother is recovering well. I thank everyone for their concern," he said, keeping his voice calm. "As for my marriage, Amaka and I are officially separated. Divorce proceedings have begun." The room fell into stunned silence. Then came the twist. "Moving forward, I ask the media and the public to respect my privacy and that of my family," Benjamin added, before gently taking the hand of the woman standing beside him. She had been quiet all along, her face calm and graceful. "This is Adana," Benjamin said. "She is not just a medical doctor who helped save my mother's life. She is someone who reminds me that peace and kindness still exist." Flashbulbs erupted as reporters tried to process what they were seeing. The beautiful woman beside him, dark-skinned, tall, and elegant in a white midi, dress smiled softly, but didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her presence beside the billionaire said enough. And the sparkle on her finger confirmed it. Back at the mansion, Amaka was curled up on the living room couch, wearing the same wrapper for 2 days straight. Her eyes were swollen. The TV played in the background, but she wasn't watching, until she heard it. And in other news, CEO Benjamin Okafor has officially introduced his new partner to the public. Social media is buzzing as photos of Dr. Adana and Benjamin flood the internet. Amaka's heart dropped. She sat up slowly, grabbing the remote and turning the volume higher. The images on the screen cut deep. Benjamin smiling, holding Adana's hand. Adana laughing beside him during a charity event. Adana gorgeous, calm, confident. Who is she? How long have they been? Amaka couldn't breathe. "Is this why you left me so easily?" she whispered, staring at the screen like it had betrayed her. "Is this the real reason?" She grabbed her phone again and opened Jennifer's chat. "Amaka, you won. He's gone. You told me to fight his mother. You told me she was the problem. Minutes passed. No response. Amaka, Jennifer, I lost everything. He's with another woman now. He has peace. I have shame. Still no reply. Then she did what she hadn't done, before she clicked on Jennifer's profile. Her jaw tightened. Jennifer Nagy, Ezinifite Village, Anambra. Her display picture showed a small room with broken ceiling panels. Suddenly, it all came crashing down. Amaka had been fighting battles based on the words of someone who had nothing. No husband, no job, no peace. A woman who had fed her lies out of bitterness. Jealousy. She remembered the way Jennifer always sneered when she mentioned Benjamin's gifts. The way she never congratulated her when Benjamin bought her the supermarket. The way she always had something bad to say about Mama Sandra. Amaka felt sick. She had ruined everything. A week later, Benjamin returned home, one last time. Not to stay but to finish the divorce process and take back the keys to the mansion. The supermarket was already shut down under court orders. Amaka came out of the house barefoot, her scarf loose over her hair. She looked like a shadow of herself. Benjamin didn't even glance at her. She called out to him. Ben, please. Can we talk? One last time. He turned slowly. His face was calm, but distant. I don't hate you, Amaka, he said quietly. I just can't trust you anymore. I was wrong. I know that now. Jennifer lied to me. I let her poison my mind. You listened, he replied. That was your choice. You beat my mother. You called her a witch. Do you know what that did to her? Tears rolled down Amaka's face. She was all I had left too. No, he said, shaking his head. You had me. And you lost me. He handed her a white envelope. These are the final divorce documents. I've taken back the supermarket and the mansion. A lawyer will contact you about the remaining process. Then he turned and walked away, leaving her standing in the compound alone. A month later, Benjamin and Adana were married in a private ceremony. 1 year later, they welcomed twin girls into the world, Nadine and Naomi. The irony was loud. The womb Amaka believed was cursed had never been the problem. Benjamin hadn't changed his lifestyle. He hadn't changed doctors. He only changed the woman. And the blessing came. Back in the village, Amaka now lived in her parents' mud house, sharing a room with her younger cousins. And Jennifer? She was nowhere to be found. Last Amaka heard, she had traveled to Lagos to start a freeshafter, borrowing money from people she never paid back. Amaka sat outside on an old wooden bench, watching the children in the compound chase each other. Her eyes were hollow. Her wrapper was faded. She had no husband, no job, no home. And now, no friend, just the echo of whispers that ruined her life, and regret, so much regret. But one day someone knocked at the door, a person she never expected to see again, and they weren't alone. The knock echoed through the small compound like a memory she wasn't ready to face. Amaka slowly looked up from where she sat, peeling bitter cola under the mango tree in front of her father's mud house. The breeze carried with it a thin trail of dust and distant laughter from neighboring children. Her life had become painfully quiet. No staff, no supermarket, no ringing phones. Just the sound of old roosters, village gossips, and silence. The knock came again. 3 soft raps. She wasn't expecting anyone. She barely left the house these days, and when she did, it was to fetch water or buy dried fish on credit from Mama Nkechi. She stood slowly, tying her wrapper tight around her chest as she walked to the old wooden door. "Who is there?" she called out cautiously. The door creaked open on its own, and standing there was someone she thought she would never see again. Adana. But she wasn't alone. In her arms were 2 baby girls, wrapped in pink and white shawls. One slept peacefully, her lips curled in a gentle pout. The other had wide brown eyes that stared straight at Amaka. For a moment, Amaka couldn't breathe. She stepped back instinctively, eyes darting in confusion. "What are you doing here?" she managed to say, voice cracking. Adana didn't answer at first. She just looked at Amaka, not with pride, not with mockery, but with a calm that felt almost kind. "I was passing through," Adana said finally. We came for a medical outreach in the neighboring town. I asked Benjamin if I could see you before we left." Amaka flinched at his name. He knows you came?" Adana nodded gently. There was silence between them for a long moment. The kind of silence where hearts speak louder than lips. Amaka's eyes drifted to the babies. Twins. Healthy. Peaceful. Beautiful. She didn't know whether to cry or smile. "I see God didn't block your womb," Amaka whispered, barely holding her tears. Adana adjusted the baby in her left arm and sighed. "It was never about blocked wombs, Amaka. It was about blocked hearts." Amaka's knees gave out, and she sat on the floor of the entrance, her body shaking. "I ruined my life," she whispered. "I threw away everything. I let hate and fear and a foolish friend destroy me." Adana knelt beside her, careful not to wake the babies. "You're not the only one who's ever been misled," she said gently. "But sometimes we must face the weight of our choices to find the path back to peace." "I hurt his mother," Amaka said through tears. "She never even fought back. She just asked me why." Adana nodded. "Mama Sandra forgave you. She said so before our wedding." Amaka looked up in shock. She did?" "Yes. She said she saw the pain in your eyes long before the cane. She told Benjamin not to let bitterness live in our home." That broke Amaka. She buried her face in her hands and sobbed. Loud, painful sobs that had waited too long to come out. "I wish I could go back," she cried. "I wish I never picked up that phone. Never listened to Jennifer." Adana placed one hand on her shoulder. "You can't go back," she said softly, "but you can go forward." Amaka looked at her, eyes swollen and red. "How?" "Start again," Adana said. "Ask for peace. Work for it. Live simply. Learn to love yourself without a man's name attached to you." The words cut deep, but they also planted something. A seed. Hope. As Adana stood to leave, one of the babies opened her eyes and made a small sound. She was staring at Amaka again, blinking curiously. Amaka reached out without thinking, and Adana gently let her hold the baby for a moment. Tears streamed down her face as she cradled the warm bundle. "She smells like him," Amaka whispered. "Benjamin." Adana nodded. "She has his stubborn eyes too." They both chuckled, two women from two different worlds, joined by pain, by truth, by fate. Will you tell him I'm sorry?" Amaka asked, looking up. "I already did," Adana said. "But I'll tell him again." She took her baby back, tightened the shawls, and turned to go. Before she stepped off the porch, she looked back one last time. "Take care of yourself, Amaka. It's never too late to rewrite your story." And with that, she disappeared down the narrow village path, the twins safe in her arms. Amaka sat for a long time, watching the dust settle behind her, her palms still warm from the baby's body, her heart aching from the ghost of what could have been. But for the first time in months, she whispered something under her breath. "Thank you, Adana." Then she stood, not straight, not proud, but willing to heal. But as she turned back into the house, something caught her eye. A familiar woman, standing by the mango tree in the corner of the compound, a woman in a faded pink blouse and fake gold earrings. It was Jennifer, and her expression wasn't one of shame. It was a smirk. "You still blaming me for your failure, Amaka?" she said coolly. "Or are you finally ready to accept who you really are?" Amaka's lips parted in shock. "Jennifer?" The name tasted bitter in her mouth now. The same mouth that once defended her. The same lips that used to laugh with her late into the night while sipping wine in the mansion Benjamin paid for. Jennifer stood with her arms crossed under the old mango tree, her fake designer slippers already coated in village dust. "You look surprised," she said with a smirk. "What? You thought I wouldn't come check on my dear friend after ruining her life?" Amaka stood still, frozen between anger and disbelief. You lied to me. You said Mama Sandra was a witch. You planted that thought in my head. You destroyed my marriage." Jennifer scoffed. "Please, you think you're that easy to control? I didn't force you to pick up that cane. You did that all by yourself." The words sliced through Amaka's chest like a sharp blade. "I trusted you," she said in a trembling voice. "You were my best friend." "And what did I get in return?" Jennifer shot back. "You married a billionaire while I was stuck in this village. You walked around Lagos like some queen. Your Instagram, your travels, your fancy supermarket. You forgot who helped you when you were still selling second-hand clothes in the market." Amaka's face crumbled. "So it was all jealousy?" "Call it whatever you want," Jennifer said, shrugging. "But it was fun watching your castle fall. You should have known better than to let a blind woman stay in your house. If anything, I did you a favor." Amaka's hands clenched at her sides. "I lost everything." "Good," Jennifer hissed. "Now we're equal." But Amaka didn't scream. She didn't cry. Not this time. Instead, she stepped forward, her voice low but firm. "No, Jennifer, we're not equal. You lost your peace a long time ago. That's why you can't keep a man. That's why you never stayed in one place long enough to build anything real." Jennifer's smirk faded. "You live off gossip and other people's pain. But I've felt the weight of my mistakes. I've faced my demons. I've sat in silence with nothing but the sound of my own regret, and I'm still standing." Jennifer opened her mouth to speak, but Amaka didn't give her the chance. "I'm not angry at you," she said. "I'm not even here to fight anymore. I just want peace. You should want the same." She turned her back and walked toward the house. And for once, Jennifer had nothing left to say. Months passed. Amaka began to rebuild her life slowly. She started helping at the local women's health clinic for free, sweeping floors, folding bandages, and handing out clean water. It was far from the glamorous supermarket she once managed, but for the first time, her heart felt full. She was doing something meaningful. The community began to notice her. One of the local nurses, Mama Ifioma, took her under her wing and began teaching her how to assist in deliveries. Amaka showed up every day, quiet, humble, eager to learn. One afternoon, as she helped a pregnant teenage girl breathe through labor, she felt something shift in her chest. A warmth, a purpose. The baby arrived safely a girl. Amaka held her for a moment before handing her to the exhausted mother. She didn't cry this time. She smiled. For the first time in a long time, she felt like a woman again. Meanwhile, back in Lagos, Benjamin and Adana were raising their twin daughters with laughter and love. Mama Sandra, now stronger, often sat by the window telling stories in Igbo while the babies giggled at her expressions. One evening, Adana walked into the living room holding a newspaper. "Ben," she said softly, "look." He looked down at the headline. "Former billionaire's ex-wife now a village midwife. A story of redemption." Benjamin read the article silently. A photo showed Amaka smiling faintly, wearing a faded apron and holding a newborn in her arms at the village clinic. "She's helping women now," Adana said. "Poor girls. Teen mothers. Widows." Benjamin exhaled, folding the paper. "She's changed," he said. Adana nodded. "Pained as that?" Benjamin looked out the window. "She was never a bad person," he said quietly. "Just broken." They didn't speak for a while. Then Benjamin smiled at his daughter crawling across the rug. "Let's just keep raising them with love," he said, "so they never forget who they are." 1 year later, Amaka stood in front of a small but growing building beside the village clinic. It was a women's resource center, built with funds donated by an NGO that noticed her work. She was now in charge of training younger girls to care for women in need, girls, just like she once was. Girls who had been lied to, misled, broken. That afternoon, she sat on a wooden bench, staring at the horizon. Her phone buzzed. A text from unknown number. "I'm proud of you, Amaka. Keep going." She smiled softly. She didn't know if it was Benjamin or Adana, maybe even Mama Sandra. But it didn't matter. She had made peace with her past. She had forgiven herself. She had become something no one expected. Not a billionaire's wife. Not a broken divorcee. But a woman who survived the storm and used her scars to light the path for others. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.